So, Anvishapam Kandatham, the Tarina Thomas thriller, has finally hit OTT. I can't wait to talk to you guys about this one. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for choosing this video amongst all the videos out there to watch. I appreciate you guys. Now let me talk about this movie. I had seen the trailer for this movie about a month ago. I think that's when it came out, and it had a pretty, I would say, limited release. Like, you know, it didn't make it to cinemas here. I don't think it had multiple dubs. And you know, it came out at a time when there were other really successful movies that came out. So we just had Brahma Yugam come out, that sort of rocked the box office with how experimental it was and how good it was. We had Manjul Boys that came out, which was also just a fantastic feel-good movie, you know, that really highlighted some of the tragedies that happened in the Gunnar Caves. And we had another movie which I've not even seen called Primalu, which didn't actually make it to Australia. But yeah, so you know, it came out at a time when Malayalam cinema is just rocking. Like, it is at such a good place right now. And in between, there was this movie called Anvishapam Kandatham, which just sort of faded away in the background. So I'm hoping it gets a bit of a run on OTT, because I really feel like if this movie had come out at a different time, it would probably be talked about a little bit more. But hey, I'm here to talk about it because I want to give this movie some praise, and I want to highlight it a little bit, because I feel like it's going to get forgotten, and I never want my man Tarina Thomas to be forgotten. He is so fantastic, and he's fantastic in this. Now, it's a police procedural, so it's not a genre that we haven't seen before. You know, in recent times we've seen some police procedurals. The most recent ones that come to my mind is Kanro Squad from last year, and another movie called Garudan as well. Both of those movies were pretty, I mean, they were great movies, especially Kanro Squad. You know, one of the most popular movies, one of the most successful movies of last year. Garudan was also a really good movie. And the other movie that I remember quite well, just for the fact that it was pretty recent and I really enjoyed it, was Irata. But again, that took a little bit of a different approach. Now, all these movies take a bit of a different approach, and they all have different things they highlight. You know, but I think what this movie does really well is it really focuses on the procedural part and the process part. So it's really more about the narrative. Before I get into this review, guys, let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite police procedural Malayalam movie? I'd love to know, because I love this genre. I've seen quite a few of them, but I'd love to get some more suggestions. My favorite one personally so far has been the movie Anjam Patira with Kunchaka Bobin, and probably Irata. They're probably my two favorites that I've seen so far. But let me know in the comments, what's your favorite? And let me know one that I haven't seen before, because I'd love to cover like an underrated police procedural movie on this channel, just because I want to talk about it. But let me get on to the movie, Anvishapam Kandatham. Like, this movie is a story of two halves, okay? So when we come in, I didn't even know that we were in a flashback. It does it so seamlessly well. I think it's to the movie's credit how well it sort of just drops you into the world and doesn't really let you know when the sort of first case is happening. You know, it's set somewhere in between the 80s and 90s, so you know, I love that sort of nostalgic kind of vibe. You know, there's just things around the settings, the environment. Everything is sort of from the 90s. There's no mobile phones. You know, technology is different back then. And you can tell that in this movie. And you can see how it impacts the movie as well. Because, yeah, there are times in this movie where I thought, man, if she had a mobile phone or something like that, everything could have changed. What the first half really does well in this movie, it really sets the tone of what this movie is going to be about. Okay, this movie is about the processes. It's about the police procedural. It's about the narrative. You know, if you're talking about what the focus of this movie is it the plot? Is it the character? Is it sort of, you know, the twist at the end? Is it the, you know, the thrilling moments that it has? It's really more about the realism, and it really sticks close to that. It's a debut director, guys. So this is by a debut director by the name of Darwin Karikos. It's a debut crime thriller, and I think it was just really well done. The first half is really, I mean, I've read that people call this movie a bit of a slow burn. Not in the first half. I don't think the first half is a slow burn at all. In fact, the first half really drops you in, and 40 minutes of this movie went by and I did not even notice. The plot keeps moving, you know, things keep happening, and we keep following the story. We're intrigued more and more to find out who the murderer is and how they're going to actually solve this. There's so much tension between Tarino's character and Sub-Inspector Anand and sort of the rest of the police force. He's really casted as somebody who's sort of against everyone. You know, he seems like he wants to do the right thing, but he's in a place which it cannot be done. And that's what the first half really does well. It shows the corruption in sort of the police landscape. And it does this throughout the whole movie. It shows kind of the struggles that the policemen have to have, that the police unit have to just solve crimes at times. It's not as easy as it seems at times. And I think unlike the other movies that I've mentioned, this is a movie that really highlights that point a lot. It directly talks about police corruption in the first half. And, they do everything to basically suppress Taveena Thomas, Anand's character, from doing the right thing. It goes so far, man, in the first half that they are willing to freaking put an innocent man in jail. Yeah, it's not really an easy watch at times from that standpoint. Like, there's nothing really over the top grotesque in this movie. You don't really see too many scenes that really shock you like that. The crimes have happened already in both of the situations by the time we get into the story. So, we're following the case after the fact. That's one thing that I really sort of appreciated, the sort of different approach. The other movies, especially the ones I mentioned, they follow the case, basically. Or they're more, or they feel more sort of graphic in nature, or they're more explosive in nature. And Kangaroo Squad, it's all about the chase. So you're trying to find, who did this. In this case, I guess you're trying to find who did wrong, but also how is Taveena Thomas going to overcome the hurdles to really, do what's right in society. So I really appreciated that about this movie. It was something just refreshing, which I think is just really cool. As I said, it highlights the dark side of the law, and it does that really well. Taveena Thomas, I have to say, is just fantastic. I really enjoyed his performance. He's a fantastic actor. I love everything he does. I love it that whenever I watch Taveena Thomas, he always offers me something different. It's always something that he brings that's just completely different, I feel like. And there's, in this movie in particular, he is really playing somebody that's so contained emotionally. And he does that so well because there is nothing in this movie that gives you any plot about what he's actually like. There's nothing. So the emotions that he conveys is completely through him. It's not through any backstory that we see. He's not gone through any hard times. The only hard times we see with him is to his professional career and sort of trying to do the right thing. But there's no sort of backstory. He hasn't lost somebody or somebody's died or anything like that. Kind of similar to Kangaroo Squad in that way. We don't really get to know much about those characters too much in their personal lives either. And I contrast that movie with something like a Garudan or like a Rata, which definitely spend much more time with the actual character and what they have been through personally. So again, Taveena Thomas, hats off. The costume design in this movie was fantastic. He looked great in that uniform. The mustache was rocking. And even the settings and everything like that, it was just, it just played into making this movie feel like a 90s cop thriller. So that's what I really enjoyed about this movie and the first half. The second half, I would say, is definitely one that it gets more into sort of the, if you want to call it, the slow-paced nature of this movie. Because it definitely gets, I guess that the pacing changes a little bit. But again, in the second half, like the first half where it showed us the struggles that Taveena Thomas is going to have to go through with sort of the other police inspectors, in this case, it's going to show what the struggles he's going to have based on society. Right, so society have definitely, painted him in a bad light. The whole police force in a bad light, actually. So they're really against him. They're not going to cooperate at all. And we see this play out and how difficult it is for anybody to do anything here. We have sort of some other cameos in this movie. We see Indrans for a little bit. We see Sadiq for a little bit as well, who's really the sort of, I guess, by his side, helping him. And he comes he comes at times that's very crucial. And, the cast itself is really good. Like, everybody in this movie is, a lot of fun to watch. And I think they're all playing their role. But everyone is playing, I would say, a contained, muted character. So there's nothing over the top. Probably something that I think people might criticize about this movie. And they might not really feel that really worked for them. For me, personally, it worked. It didn't have to be, another explosive drama or another explosive twist. Although there is a twist at the end, which I appreciated. And again, even the twist shows us the same way that we saw sort of the first half unfold with. It's very procedural. It doesn't really get into the emotion that much, which I really appreciated. It's such a different take on filmmaking because you think movies are about sort of jumping into the emotion, going along for the ride, the thrills. But this movie takes a completely different approach and it's completely, man, like it is so like ground level that you really don't ever jump up off your seat. You don't ever get too excited about this movie. And I think that's a testament to the filmmaking. It's very different. It's just refreshing. I love to see movies that are refreshing. And that's what we get from debut filmmakers. But again, the second half, as I said, it's a similar case in some ways, but different as well. So it does play on some of I guess there is some stuff that Taveena Thomas is sort of haunted by his past, and he doesn't want to say make the same mistakes as what he's sort of done. But there's also a chance for redemption for him and his squad, and they really play that out really well. And the whole twist at the end, how they sort of reveal it, I actually really appreciated. I thought it was done really well. Like, it was just something that I didn't see coming. For example, I didn't really see all of that unraveling like it did. But when it hit me like that, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool how they've done this. They've got the community which was originally against them to actually help them in a way to find the culprit. And it just goes to show how good of a cop Taveena Thomas is. And it kind of hurts in a way to see that, even though you're a good cop, you're somebody that's trying to do the right thing, it doesn't mean life's going to be any easier for you at all. Like, it's going to be difficult for you to really succeed, and you have to overcome a lot of obstacles despite even wanting to do the right thing. And I think that's kind of what the message of this movie is, and it does a great job of telling us that message. But overall, guys, there's not too much more to talk about this movie. There's not really any deep themes that it uncovers except for the stuff I talked about already. There's no other backstory, there's no love interest, there's no songs. I will say the cinematography for this movie is very good. I really appreciated the different kind of takes. There's a scene that they do where they're like following a camera behind Taveena Thomas's back, and it feels like a video game. And they do some pretty cool stuff in the first half to really get us engaged with how they're sort of showing the first story unfold. It's kind of like two timelines happening at once, with Taveena Thomas planted in the previous timeline, watching things unfold around him. Almost like he has some kind of vision. So they do some things pretty cool creatively. There's no big songs in this, no big song numbers or anything like that. I don't think it was needed. It wouldn't make much sense. But the score and the music that just plays to sort of underpin the tone of this movie is done really well. I've already talked about the performances. I thought they were fantastic. They were really good. I would say if you are looking for something to watch, I would definitely give Anvishapam Kantatam a watch. You're definitely going to have a good time with it. It's not a movie I don't think it's going to be a movie that's going to go down as one of the best movies of the year. Now, I do think it would have had a much more success if it didn't come out at the same time as Brahma Yugam, as Manjumu Boys, and Krimalu. But how could anyone know that all three movies were going to be, blockbuster hits in the industry? But I do feel like it would have definitely had much more of a run. I've not seen Abraham Osler yet. I think that's another procedural movie, so I'd love to do a comparison between this movie and that movie. I think that's coming to streaming soon, so I'll probably cover it soon as well. But let me know your thoughts if you've seen this movie, guys. Let me know what you think about this movie. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? What did you think? Do you agree with me? Did you like this movie, or did it not work? So I can understand with people wanting more excitement out of this movie, and that's completely fine as well. Like, it's just coming in with sort of different expectations, I think. But yeah, that's about all I have to say, guys. Go out and watch it. It's on TV. It's on Netflix right now, so not hard to get. But thanks again for listening to my review. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next one.